My name is Julian and I'm an artist, composer and writer based here in New York City. I actually grew up in Australia, as you can probably tell from my accent. I grew up in the town of Melbourne, and that's where I first fell in love with music. Firstly pop and rock, because that's what my father and mother were into. But then once I hit my teens, I inadvertently went down a classical music path and fell in love with such composers as Mozart, Schumann, Debussy, and then in quick succession, more contemporary or 20th century composers like Stockhausen, and got very excited by the infinite possibilities of sound and musical cultures in our current age. This is a solo exhibition centering on a single work which comprises 13 LED light boxes. It's called I Want to Be Held, and it's the third in a series of pieces that I've created in recent months. Bit of a divergence from a lot of my earlier work, which is much more purely about sound, music, vibration, and communality of how people come together in different public places. This is an entirely silent work. It's just light and just text, but it still goes down a musical path. And what I'm trying to do in the piece is to try and drill down into one of the elemental aspects of classical music, at least, which is the musical score. What you see when you walk into the room is a geometric array of 12 light boxes on the wall, and then you see more light at your feet. And each sign is blaring in a somewhat inchoate, multicolored way, a message of one kind or another. If you walk any period of time through the streets of Manhattan, you'll come across these LED signs just about on every street corner, whether it's a bodega or a pharmacy or a shop of some kind. And you get used to just all of this messaging coming at you 24 hours a day. In this particular year, 2020, it's been a year of overload of messages. We've had the pandemic, we've had politics, we've had protests on the street. And this work attempts to reflect a lot of that into the work and then back out at you. So you have certain protest slogans reflected in the work, often relating to silence or listening or resisting through the ears or the voice. You have certain quotes from musical compositions. You have some of my own messages. And also threaded through a reference to a particular text score of 1960. The text score was a phenomenon that became pretty big in the 1960s in the downtown New York experimental music scene. A couple of figures coming to mind would be Yoko Ono and Lamont Young, who both worked together on a series of loft concerts, which became very influential from 1960 onwards. These text scores drill down the essence of what it means to write a musical composition, which if you're a composer means jotting down a lot of notes, you hand it off to a performer, and then eventually it finds its way to a listener down the track. But if you forget all the musical notation and just go to language, the power dynamics of that situation become quite bare. You are literally asking someone to do something for you, and so it almost suggests a quasi-contractual kind of situation, and you have to ask yourself whether you are going to respond, resist, transform, or simply do what that person is telling you to do. And that's where the protest slogans come in, because these are often about resistance and challenging power. And I'm interested too as to how performers and listeners might challenge the authority of the composer, especially as we think of such big names like Beethoven, whose 250th anniversary we're celebrating right now. So these text scores often give out a somewhat mysterious or, on the other hand, more direct way of undertaking an action. And in the case of the Lamont Young piece I'm referencing, it's to be held for a long time. In this case, it's 2 notes, a perfect fifth, which in Lamont Young's case extend for hours, minutes, days, sometimes years. And I'm softening that by saying, I want to be held for a long time. So it becomes intimate, confessional, almost plaintive. This work relates to another composition of mine called Cohort, which I finished under lockdown. And on this video work, you see 5 people of 5 very different backgrounds, different ages, cultural backgrounds, genders, coming together. They were recorded separately in the western suburbs of Sydney, and I brought them together as this kind of ghost choir. And I think this speaks to this period of social distancing and wanting to reach out to other people and not quite being able to. I found it fascinating that 5 people recorded on 5 separate occasions, when brought together, form a kind of unison, a kind of harmony, a kind of consensus from afar. I hope you can enjoy this work, Cohort, and all the best from here in Chelsea from me, Julian.
Mm.